Up, up, and away! There goes Superman, flying off to save Lois Lane. That's how I thought it would be like to be a pilot. I mean, come on, you've all grown up watching superheroes fly from here to there and all about the place. If I do the same thing in a metal tube, it's pretty much the same, right? Come to think of it, I was basically Iron Man. And my Jarvis was the ATC. Only difference, I couldn't tell my Jarvis to shut up. On September 6th of 2021, my second morning in Canada, I got up super early, all excited, got ready, had breakfast, was on my first sip of coffee when the school van honked outside. I ran into it, jumped into the van, and yelled, "Full speed ahead!" The 35-year-old beaten up van grumbled into life and slowly backed out of the driveway. Off to a slow start, huh? And then I started talking to the guy who was driving me, and I found out that the guy I just yelled at was the founder's grandson. Definitely not the best way to start. We finally end up somewhat reaching school. I walk in, talk to the friendliest receptionist ever. I'm still very excited, but now a little bit more cautious. And in walks my instructor. When I talk about a flight instructor, the idea in my head was someone who's very authoritative, quiet, has like an atmosphere of solemn and strict around him. But my instructor walked in, a 6 foot tall Latino guy wearing shorts and a shirt, and the first thing he yells as soon as he sees me is "Puta la madre, another Indian." Do you know how to speak English? Words failed to express how confused I was. I finally found my voice, and I tell him, I introduce myself to him. He tells me that one of his instructors was Indian. I tell him that everybody I know in my life are Indian. And we start talking. And as we keep talking, he hands me a headset. He walks out, looks at me dressed all in formals, and he asks me, is this what you're comfortable wearing? I'm like, this is what we wear to fly normally, right? Stares me straight, dead in the eye, and he says, "Those dress shoes look good, but you're not going to fly in those." I was like, damn, scary guy, huh? Finally get to the plane. This small old Cessna 152 built in the late 80s, painted completely white, has a light blue stripe down the side and its moniker CGONS written on both sides of the plane. Charlie, Golf, Oscar, November, Sierra. I read to myself in my head. He starts walking around the plane, fiddling with everything, doing the pre-check, checking the fuel, whatever. And as he does that, he tells me that the story behind this plane. It was the plane that he passed his flight test in, and he nicknamed it the Gonzales. And it was a good story. I was listening to him, and eventually he gets to the other end and squeezes himself into the plane effortlessly. Now, most of the planes that I have gotten into so far are planes that I walk into as I stand right now, right? But my training plane was extremely small. There's a step about that big. I put one leg on it, shoved my rear into that seat, and then finally turned to face the controls. And after this, I had to again jiggle the seat around in order to reach the rudders and everything. It was a pain. He watches me do all of this and just says, "It's fine, you'll get used to it." Okay. As he does that, he starts messing with the electronics, the engine and everything. He shows me where to connect my headset. I put on the headset, and the radio turns on. He makes a call saying, "Oscar November Sierra, about to start up and taxi to the run-up bay." Most places that we've seen flights happen, now you're expecting a controller on the other end to say something along the lines of "Oscar November Sierra, cleared for startup and taxi," right? No. Mine was an uncontrolled airport. So instead, there was another instructor flying somewhere on the radio, goes, "Yo, Alfonso, who you flying with today?" Before I could say anything, my instructor picks up the radio and he goes, "New guy, hope he isn't shit." Wow, the amount of faith he had in me. We finally get the plane started. I can hear that small engine loud. It's screaming, it's angry. My instructor increases the throttle to move the plane a little further. We go into the taxiway, to the run-up bay. We're doing the checks, and now in my head, This was the feeling. Now, back in school, all of you guys had chemistry classes, right? Do you remember the first time you went to a chemistry lab to do the experiments? Were you guys excited? It was the same feeling, but a million-fold more in my head. As I'm thinking about all of this, we do the checkups, we line up. My first takeoff from the pilot seat, I'm so excited. My instructor holds the brake, pushes the throttle to maximum. The engine is screaming, and so is the voice in my head. I'm just ready to take off, and he lets go of the brake. The half kilometer that aircraft needs to take off goes by in mere seconds, and eventually we were off to the sky. It was this very moment, that moment that we took off, that was serendipity. It was the moment I realized that flying was my everything. There was nothing that I could be more interested in. There was nothing more. I am idle. Now, as I eagerly wait to fly in India, no matter what hardships, no matter what knockdowns life throws at me, it is that one moment that still keeps me going and it makes me want to be an amazing pilot. Thank you.